friends, Knife Detector here, and it is bright and early on a Sunday. I think it's around 7:40 Sunday morning. A couple of hours, I'm gonna go to church with the family, but I wanted to show you this knife. Now, I got lucky. I ended up getting this knife, I think, for about 25 bucks on eBay. And this knife brings back a lot of memories. So the way this video is gonna go is like this. This is a pre-1991 Champion C. We're gonna talk about it. And I think this might go further than pre-1991. I think this might be pre-1986, but we're going to discuss some of that in a little bit. I'm not sure if that's the case. And then I'm going to tell you the story of why I stopped collecting Swiss Army knives for like 20 years or something like that. And, I'm going to tell you that. Now, a lot of you have already heard this story because you've been following me for 3, 4, 5 years. So if you know this story, I'm going to talk about the story at the very end. Okay, but first we're going to talk about this pre-1991 Champion C. Now, when I bought this, it was listed as a pre-1991 Champion C. However, I see a lot of indicators here that tell me that it might be a little bit older. You know, some of the common features of a Champion C are, of course, that, it has the magnifying glass, because they started to add that after different versions, because in Champions during the 1980s they have the A, the B, and the C, and I believe it was the C that they added the magnifying glass. And this also has an inline screwdriver with a half stop, and the purpose of that, and it's different from other models, is that you can actually stop here in case you need to get in a tight corner. You can use that Phillips screwdriver, right? So it's got that Phillips screwdriver. It has, of course, the scissors, right? It has the saw. It has the fish scaler. But also look at the shield. This shield looks like nickel silver to me. It looks like nickel silver to me. And, they didn't make them, or they stopped making them out of nickel silver, I think sometime in maybe the late 80s. And so to me, that has like a little patina. I think that might be nickel silver. This file is very useful. It cuts through metal. Even has some small teeth, if you can see that. Of course, you have the little blade. This little blade has a little flaw. It has a tiny little bend right there. We can barely see it. Honestly, after sharpening, that'll probably just disappear, right? But I love that it has a magnifying glass, because it really does work, that magnifying glass. When I got this, it was extremely dirty. Of course, you've seen other of my knife cleaning videos, so I cleaned that. But there are some other features on this knife that kind of date it for me. Let's take a look at the big blade. Okay, let's close that can opener. Most of these blades appear to have had little use. Notice that on the Victorinox Switzerland, it's got the little V, and it doesn't have the big V. Again, that tells me that it's probably pre-1991. This does not have the umbrella in the back, but I've seen that that's the case with some older models as well. It doesn't have the umbrella in the back, Now, check this out. It does have the fluted corkscrew, which again tells me it's an older model. Now, it didn't have the toothpick or the tweezers, so I cannibalized another knife to put those on there. So I always look for little features, right? And recently I learned another feature on how to date these. Of course, I watch awesome channels like Tobias, Knife Chats with Tobias. He's awesome at dating these Victorinox knives. I watch Swiss Army Dan. So if you don't subscribe to Swiss Army Dan, he's just a plethora of information on Victorinox knives. And recently I learned something else from Mark Kaufman and Mark Kaufman's channel. So thank you, Mark. We're going to talk about that, what I learned from your channel in a little bit. So check this out. This is the fluted corkscrew. Now, also from Swiss Army Dan, I learned about the awl. Now, this awl has a little bevel right there at the tip. You see that? Has a little bevel right there at the tip. That again tells me that it's probably pre-86. That little bevel right there on the tip. So it doesn't have the hole, and it has that little bevel. So I learned that from Swiss Army Dan, and I learned from Mark Kaufman that there's usually on this layer that's specifically for this keychain hole, this lanyard hole right here, lanyard loop, that there's an extra lip here that's on the models that are more newer. So they add an extra lip right between the awl and this little spacer, but it's not there. So that tells me that it's much older. I forgot what Mark said at that point. I think it was like pre-80s. After 1986 or after 91 or something, it had that lip, and here it doesn't, you know. So I think this knife might be like 86, 84, 85, something like that would be my best guess. But look, it's got 1, 2, I think we should count that as 3, 4, 5, 6 layers, I think, right? Should I count that one as 3 or 2? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers. I am not an expert on Swiss Army knives. I just learn what I can from friends and watching other YouTube channels, but this is just an amazing knife, right? But let's talk about my story, right? So, when I was around 13, my parents went to church. I didn't go to church on that night, and I decided to stay home. Well, I was watching some ninja movie called The Challenge, right? And it was a good movie, but I was peeling an apple while I was watching that movie. And while I was peeling the apple, I went ahead and I was really into the movie. And when I'm into something, it's like nothing else can be happening around me. Like I'm totally just into whatever it is I'm doing. And so I'm peeling that apple, and then all of a sudden I slice right through between my thumb and index finger. Right there, and I didn't even feel it. And then I looked, and then blood started to trickle down. Of course, being 13, I didn't want my parents to get upset because I knew it was going to mean money and medical bills and what have you. So I put a bandana around it to stop the bleeding. So as I started to take off the bandana, like after an hour, to see, you know, how, because back then, you know, the church we'd go to would take like 3 or 4 hours for service, right? I used to take off my bandana, and then it started to squirt. Blood starts to squirt everywhere. So it starts to squirt all over the seat, the mirror. So I put the bandana back on. I'm like, oh my God, there's a little artery there or something, right? So again, I squeezed it tight and I applied pressure and bandaged it up as best as I could. And so my parents got home, and yes, they saw me hiding my hand, right? And immediately they feared something was wrong. And there was a separation here. By now, it was as far apart as maybe almost like a half of a penny apart or something like that. So my dad took me to the hospital immediately, and then the doctor told me that yeah, there's nerves there, and that he was going to have to stitch me up. So he stitched me up, and I think it hurt my dad more than it hurt me to watch the stitches. I kind of accepted it as my punishment for being stupid, and I make a long story short, you know, he stitched me up. I went home. It was only about 6 stitches, and then you know, my dad, he didn't penalize me. He just told me to be more careful, and that I was going to get rid of that knife, right? And that knife was really like my foray into knife collecting. So I didn't collect Swiss Army knives for a long time because of that. And so I ended up giving this knife, I believe it was to my brother, Alex, I think. And so I gave it to him, and I was 13 at the time, and I just didn't want anything else to do with it, right? And so that was it. I didn't collect Swiss Army knives for many years after that, probably like 20 years. Now, as I got older, I collected other types of knives, but not this one. It's like these intimidated me and scared me and brought back so many memories that I just stayed away from it, right? Well, of course, being in my adulthood, I decided, you know, that I'm going to look past that and I'm going to keep going. And come on, I'm not going to cut myself all the time. But yeah, okay. So I cut myself here with a deluxe tinker. I have another video coming out on. So, you know, there's going to be cuts and bruises and scrapes. In life, you know, you're going to get cut. You're going to get hurt. Whether it's your ego or your body, physically, emotionally, or mentally. You know, there will be things that hurt us, right? But we bounce back and we come back and we remember the good times, and we know that not every day is going to be a day in which, you know, we're going to experience pain emotionally, physically, or mentally. There are going to be good days as well. There's good days ahead. So as an adult, we understand that there's going to be positive things headed our way if we just hang in there long enough. All right. And if we just maintain a little bit of hope and a little bit of patience, right, guys? Anyway, I wanted to show you this and take you down memory lane again. I know I've told that Swiss Army knife story a few times in all of my channel. There's a few videos that have it, but I wanted to share it with you again. So this has been another one by the Knife Detector. Y'all take care, amigos. Happy Monday. Have a blessed Monday. Stay dry out there. God bless.